Pyro is an odd class. I don't think that really needs to be said this far into the game's lifespan. There was a time where the Mumbling Abomination was a simple powerhouse. The flamethrower, the shotgun and the fire axe were all they had at their disposal, which is exactly what a class such as the Pyro needed. That all changed in June of 2008, where the first Pyro update was released. Here we got the backburner, the flare gun and the extinguisher, brand new weapons that completely changed how the Pyro worked. The backburner granted critical hits from behind, which benefited the flanking type of playstyle. Then the flare gun allowed for more long-range methods of attack, changing how a Pyro could handle a situation, and finally the extinguisher granting critical hits on a burning enemy, igniting a small flame that would turn into what is known as the combo Pyro. And right there was the beginning of the many playstyles a Pyro would have. While not every weapon had the same impact as these three, there are plenty of examples that impacted the plentiful amount of styles we have now. The degrees were allowed for an easier switch to and from their other two weapons, increasing the validity of combo pyros, the detonator giving pyros more mobility with flare jumping, the reserve shooter at the time allowing for easier comboing of weapons, the thermal thruster giving even more mobility than the detonator, the home wrecker and arguably the neon annihilator allowing for a more supportive role by having the ability to remove sappers from friendly engineer buildings, the power jack allowing faster movement speeds, and finally the back scratcher giving the pyro more survivability and power with good map knowledge. Those are but a few weapons that I personally believe changed the pyro in enough of a way to really make the class feel different from normal pyro. So to break it down simply, we have normal offensive pyro, then we have the combo pyro which allows for more complex plays, and of course combos, allowing you to flow from one weapon to another in order to deal more damage. Then we have the playstyle I've already dubbed the Lone Wolf, primarily using the back scratcher alongside other weapons to increase your survival rate, allowing for the pyro to go in alone and deal as much damage as they possibly can alone. Then we have the more defense oriented playstyles with weapons like the Scorch Shot and Gas Passer allowing pyros to be more suited to an area denial role, with the Scorch Shot knocking players back and the Gas Passer literally stopping enemies from advancing unless they're okay with being set alight. And finally we have supportive weapons that benefit the team more than the pyro themselves. These include most flamethrowers with the Air Blast, the Extinguish ability with the Man Melter, and obviously the Home Wrecker and Neon Annihilator, allowing for the well-known Pyro playstyle benefiting fellow engineers. But BonOakley, I hear you cry, doesn't every class in the game have a different playstyle to their original one? And to that I say, well yeah, of course. That's what makes TF2 so special. Multiple playstyles are common for a class, such as the offensive tools for the Sniper and Engineer are completely changing how a class works, like the Demo Man and his Demo Knight tools. Pyro is a different story however, as while there are plenty of playstyles for a Pyro to use, there's such an abundance that it gets confusing on what Pyro's true role is. Pyro is branded as an offense-based class on the game's official page, as well as the Team Fortress 2 wiki, but with the previously mentioned items, they drastically change what the Pyro is capable of and has been branded by the majority of the community as a jack of all trades. The definition for this is a person who can do many different types of work, but who is not necessarily very competent at any of them, and I'd say that fits Pyro to a T. While other playstyles for other classes offer differences that, while noticeable, don't detract from the primary role of that specific class. Pyro on the other hand has too many to really pin down a specific role. They can be offensive, they can be defensive, and they can also be supportive, but they aren't great at one specific role. Pyro is good at offense, but Scout and Soldier can outdo them. Pyro is pretty decent at defense, but Demo Man, Heavy and Engineer have them beat on that front too. Well, what about support then? Well, Medic, Sniper and Spy can honestly do it easier and much more safely. So really, what good does Pyro really do? Why am I a Pyro main? Existential crisis aside, while this harms the Pyro finding their true purpose, I do believe this gives them more longevity. If you're a player who swears that they won't switch classes, even though your team clearly needs more of one class than the other, then first of all, what's wrong with you? But second, if you're that stubborn and you don't want to switch from Pyro, then they can at least let you switch your overall playstyle. Is your engineer struggling to keep those pesky spies and soldiers away? Well, switch on over to a more defense-oriented loadout and you can deny both of them. Struggling to get around the enemy team? Well, switch to an attack-based loadout with a detonator or thermal thruster and you can swoosh around them. What I'm trying to get at here is that Pyro is one of the most diverse arsenals in the game, letting them switch their loadouts to suit the needs of the team more efficiently than a lot of the other classes. Sure, a Scout is good at attacking, like really good, but is he good at defending a point? Well, not exactly. A Medic is great at supporting his team with useful healing, but he's not exactly a great attacker alone. But like I previously said, Pyro may be good at everything, but they're not great at one specific job. While yes, a Pyro can assist on all grounds pretty well, everyone just does it better. Scout and Soldier has better damage output, Demo Man and Engineer have specific tools that benefit their defense role, and Medic and Sniper assist the team in a much more effective manner. It's not easy being a Pyro main. You can try your best to juggle everything or be as effective as possible in one area, but you'll still be called a noob and unfortunately other teammates will do your job better. But as pessimistic as I am about the whole thing, I decided to ask a couple of my friends, Risemonger and ihasnotomato, for their opinions on the messy playstyles Pyro provides. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to my fellow Pyro mains.
Heyo everyone, Risemonger here. This is quite the interesting topic, I must say. The fact Pyro has a messy playstyle is true. The term jack of all trades, master of none comes to mind. It's clearly indicated that Valve intended for the Pyro to be a power class, and once upon a time that was true, but with the introductions of weapons like the backburner, the degreaser, the flare gun and the power jack, suddenly it's no longer clear on what Pyro's role is in the game. Part of the reason, I believe, is players only see the base categories for each of the classes. Like, they see Pyro in offensive and immediately come to the conclusion that he is a power class and deals out a high damage output. And yes, the whole WM1 stigma doesn't help, but it does become very apparent that he is anything but. I agree that Pyro is a mess, and their place in the TF2 food chain leaves something to be desired. He is classified as a power class, and yet Pyro and Scout deal out stupid amounts of damage and have advantage of high and versatile mobility. But Pyro can be defensive with the Scorch Shot, but again, Heavy, Engineer and Demo can do that way better. As for supports, well, it's nice to have a Pyro watching your back, but every class has the capacity to spy check, and he cannot get those clean picks that Spy and Sniper can effortlessly get without getting into the thick of battle, just like Pyro has to. Finally, he can extinguish his teammates, but as useful as that is, Medic can do that and also heal the target in question. So yeah, it's a mess, but in spite of all of this, there is one thing, I believe, Pyro has that the other classes don't, and that's diversity. And I know what you're thinking, but Rise, every class can be diverse. Look at all the loadouts and playstyles you can get with them. But you see, while their playstyle can be changed, they're still locked in their singular categories. Scout is still an offensive class, even with Mad Milk equipped. Heavy is still a defensive class, even if he goes Fat Scout. You can't change his mobility. Sniper is still a support class, even with the extra room he has with the Huntsman. But Pyro can be all of these things. What I mean by this is Pyro has the ability to be offensive, defensive, and supportive. Or all three at the same time if you're so inclined. For example, Flog or Stock for offensive, Scorch Shot for defensive, and Homewrecker for support. And that's what makes Pyro special in my eyes and why I play him more than the other classes. Pyro's limit is your imagination, and we Pyro mains have crazy ability to be as creative as possible, especially with our shortcomings. Well, I hope that about sums up my thoughts and answers any questions. Thanks for having me along, Bon. Risemonger, signing off.
There's two things that I think people need to understand about the Pyro's playstyle. And that is, yes, the Pyro can be a jack of all trades, but the Pyro's still a master of one. And that is fire. Fire is an endlessly useful tool, in my opinion, as it can be helpful in any situation that the Pyro might find themselves in. If you're attacking, shooting flares and flames at someone will ultimately end up scaring them, lighting them on fire, dealing damage to them, and if they're unfortunate enough to get close enough to you, will probably kill them very quickly, dealing a lot of damage. If you're defending, people aren't too keen on getting close to you, as you are a Pyro and one of the scariest classes to fight up close. Again, being on fire is not a very nice thing. If you're playing the more supportive role, hanging around your engineers and stuff, the flamethrower is literally the best spy checking tool in the game, which will deter them away, and if they're unfortunate to be set ablaze, well, everyone will be there to see it. In my opinion, intrigue in the Pyro isn't just the fact that they are a jack of all trades, but it's the fact that they also bring fire into that element. And that is an incredibly unique element to Pyro's playstyle, which is present through literally all the playstyles. To put it quite frankly, the enemy team does not enjoy being on fire, and the Pyro loves setting them alight. And if you can set them alight in any situation that the enemy team is in, then you're golden. In my opinion, if I'm playing just about any other role, it's nice to have a friendly Pyro around, because at the very least they'll be adding that extra pressure. A bullet hurts for a second, flames burn for seconds. Basically what I'm saying is you can fit in as a Pyro in any role. As long as you understand the tools at your disposal, you'll be golden. Subscribe to ihasnotomato.
One final point I thought I'd discuss is the fact that Pyro relies on crits a lot. 10 out of the 24 unique weapons Pyro has some sort of critical hit factor on them. Whether or not this is intentionally done to boost his usefulness is unclear to me, but I find it strange why almost half of his arsenal relies on such a mechanic, whereas other classes don't really rely on it too much. Of course they have crit mechanics too, but not as much as the Pyro does, but I think that would be best saved for a later video. So overall, yes, Pyro does have the ability to do essentially a large chunk of what is needed for a team, they just don't do it well enough. They always lag behind in terms of effectiveness that the other classes possess. Pyro is labelled as an offense class, and Valve really need to show that more. Maybe that's the explanation for the large amount of crit based weapons, but that's a pretty lazy way to try and differentiate the Pyro from the rest of the pack. Give the Pyro something to actually stand out rather than be the jack of all trades we know him as, because if everyone else can do the jobs required better than a Pyro can, then really what's the point? Pyro has the potential to be great, greater than what he is now in fact. Pyro is no doubt a fun class and arguably the most unique after Spires. They're the only ones to have flame based weapons. Putting Pyro on a pedestal and showcasing that more unique side makes him appealing to newer players, but he just needs that little something to make him truly different. I definitely do not hate the way Pyro is right now, but I just yearn for something that shows his true potential rather than just juggling what the rest of the team already does. But what do you guys think? Does Pyro really need to receive that one special thing to stand out from the crowd, or did he already stand in a good position? Let me know your thoughts down below, and of course a huge thanks to Risemonger and ihasnotomato for their time and thoughts to the subject. The links and doodads will be down in the description. And as always, this has been your Fem Pyro enthusiast BonOakley signing out. See you guys in the next one.
Here's some of the awesome art you kind people have made. Man, look at the size of those things. Hey, thank you for watching this thingy-majiggy. Click the boxes above me. I mean, if you want to, that is.